Hi, this is Victoria Meyer. Welcome back to the Chemical Show. Today, I am talking about customer centricity and its role in creating business resilience during flat and inflationary markets. In episode 118, I shared insights from the second quarter 2023 earnings reports from some leading chemical companies. And we talked about the flat markets caused by inventory destocking, sluggish economies, and overproduction in some markets. And I highlighted in that episode three approaches that companies are taking to create business resilience in these markets. Those three approaches are commercial discipline, customer centricity, and diversifications of markets and customers. So I am using 3 Thursday episodes to unpack each of those items. Last week, episode 120, I tackled commercial discipline. If you haven't listened to it, go back and do so. You're going to enjoy it. This week, episode 122 is all about customer centricity. And then finally, next week, episode 124 is going to be about diversification. So stay tuned. If you are not already subscribed to the podcast, then you should hit the subscribe button now, whether you're in Apple, Spotify, online, or in YouTube, so that you make sure you receive the episodes right when they're released. We will also be tackling some of these topics at our upcoming The Chemical Summit on October 24th and 25th in the Woodlands. There's a panel discussion specific to customer value and customer centricity with leaders from LyondellBasell, Palmer Holland, and SI Group. It is going to be great. I'm so looking forward to it because the leaders that we've got coming have some really excellent insights and stories to share. So you don't want to miss it. Head on over to thechemicalsummit.com to register and reserve your spot. Okay, customer centricity. What is it? Customer centricity is often confused with customer service, and it aligns with customer experience. The reality is there is not one common definition. Gartner says customer centricity demands that the customer is the focal point of all decisions related to delivering products, services, and experiences to create customer satisfaction, loyalty, and advocacy. Oh, that's a long definition. I actually like to tighten this up because the reality is this is not about all customers, or rather, all customers are not created equal. And in fact, Wharton professor Peter Faber, who wrote a book called Customer Centricity, I'll link to it in the show notes. What he says is customer centricity is about focusing on the right customers to create strategic value. As I like to say, you can't be everything to everyone, right? So companies that try to be everything to everyone, it is a slow and painful, maybe not a death, but certainly not reaching the standards of business performance and business resilience you want, right? So you have to be able to say, no, you can't be everything to everyone. Customer satisfaction doesn't pay the bills, right? So again, customer centricity is not necessarily about having a high customer satisfaction score. You can have an amazingly high customer satisfaction score and have no customers, or have very few customers and not getting the right profitability, not getting the right value out of those customer relationships. So really, customer centricity is really about serving the right customers in the right way with the right products and services at the right time. One of the things that stood out in those second quarter 23 earnings reports, and this came from Eastman CEO Mark Costa. One of the comments he made in that report was, we continue to benefit from momentum in our premium products and markets, right? And the subtext in that as well is recognizing that those products are going to the customers that value them. And customer centricity is a whole lot about understanding and matching what you do and how you serve your customers and putting the right customers at the center of your business. So key elements in this, I actually think this is not an overnight exercise, right? So this is a journey that takes a couple of years really to get right. And part of this first piece is just phase one I call part of discovering and understanding, right? The elements that really you can focus in on when you're thinking about customer centricity and using it to drive business resilience. So first of all, customer lifetime value, which is really the value that business relationships have over time. So, thinking about value, I really think about this in terms of margin and growth, and kind of the overall value you're getting with your business. You can measure it a couple different ways. It is really forward looking, right? So if we think about projects, capital projects, innovations, et cetera, when you start looking back at sunk costs don't matter. I hate to say this, but in many ways, that sunk business relationship, the relationship that's behind you, it matters, but it's not the primary focus. It is one element of assessing customer lifetime value. Customer lifetime value is forward looking, right? You are recognizing the value of that company, of the business leader, being okay with some ups and downs, right? Because we've seen in these last few years, there's been some great highs, there's been some great lows in business across the chemical industry. But it's really about looking at value, looking at cost to serve this customer and this relationship, not just really in the ways that we sometimes think about it, which would be the cost of goods sold and just raw materials and looking at just a pure profit margin. But it's also resources, time, logistics, labs, innovation, understanding the value. And you know what? The value equation is two-way. Let's be clear about that. Value is never just one way. It is two-way. And your customer lifetime value, and thinking about those customers, your most strategic customers that create the most value for you and together you for them, is critical. And customer centricity involves understanding the right customers. Customer lifetime value is one way of doing that. The second piece of this is around strategic alignment, right? So that also aligns with customer lifetime value, but the value that companies that are strategically aligned to you value you and your services more. You are aligned in long-term objectives. You're aligned in the ways of doing business. Your strategies around growth, around customers, around markets, around other elements of your business are aligned. You have strategic alignment. Companies that you have strategic alignment with, they're quite possibly one of your right customers, right, that you want to align to. The third piece of customer centricity and really in this discovery phase of figuring out who are your key customers that need to be at that center of your business, segmentation and ensuring that you're doing the right things for the right customers. I actually talked a lot about segmentation and personalization in episode 110. If you haven't listened, go back and listen. We'll also link it to the show notes, but segmentation is critical because when you're using customer centricity and driving your business to creating a higher level of customer experience, a higher level of customer value, you need to know which segments of your customers are you achieving that with and are achieving that with you. And then the fourth thing really, it ties in with employee buy-in. And I've lumped this here in my phase one discovery. And the reality is this becomes part of your design and definition. Once you understand, right, customer lifetime value, strategic alignment, your segmentation, you're able to take the next step and say, okay, now what? Who are the right customers that we need to put at the center of our business that drive the greatest strategic value? And again, I think of it like a bullseye target. You're not necessarily getting rid of customers, but you are understanding the most valuable premium customers, greatest customer lifetime value, and ensuring that you are serving them appropriately. When you think about your next tier of customers, you might be serving them a little bit differently, right? So driving customer satisfaction, doing the right things for the right customers, being customer centric and putting your customers at the center of your business processes, your customer activities, but also prioritizing them, right? I'm going to go back to what Mark Costa said, Eastman CEO Mark Costa said, which is around we continue to benefit from momentum in our premium products and markets. Customer centricity is key. I've heard this from a number of leaders. We've seen this in some of the second quarter earning reports that I broke down a couple weeks ago in episode 118 in terms of how do we drive long-term business resilience. Customer centricity is one of those key levers that we have to exercise. Being customer-centric requires clear understanding, strategy, decisions about your approach to customers, the customer experience, and customer value. Being the right supplier to the right customer at the right time. That's it for today. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player and leave us a rating and review. In the meantime, we will be coming back to you again with another episode. So thank you for listening to today's episode of The Chemical Show. Keep listening, keep liking, keep following, keep sharing. We'll talk to you again next week.
We've come to the end of today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us and want to learn more. Simply visit thechemicalshow.com for additional information and helpful resources. Join us again next time here on The Chemical Show with Victoria Meyer.